Day 622 of the Trump administration. As we said, the breaking news we're going to begin with tonight happened just over an hour ago on the floor of the U.S. Senate.
This evening, the Senate will receive the results of the FBI supplemental background investigation of Judge Brett Kavanaugh. So I'm filing cloture on Judge Kavanaugh's nomination this evening so the process can move forward.
Senate stands adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow.
That's all Senate talk, of course. It means the key procedural vote on Kavanaugh can begin 1 hour after the Senate convenes Friday. It means we could have a full and final Senate vote by this weekend. Before that, members of the Senate Judiciary Committee will get their first look at the FBI's new background investigation into Brett Kavanaugh. NBC News has confirmed Chairman Grassley will be the first one allowed to review the findings at 8 a.m. Eastern. Then ranking member Senator Dianne Feinstein will have a chance as head of the Dems on the committee at 9 a.m. Senate Judiciary Republicans at 10 a.m. Then committee Democrats at 11 a.m. In all, about 109 people are allowed to see the investigation results. This latest inquiry was a result of Dr. Christine Blasey Ford's accusation of sexual assault against Kavanaugh, an allegation he denies. Right now, Senate Majority Leader McConnell has no plans to make the report public. But tonight there are major questions being asked about the way this investigation was conducted and why it didn't take all the time it was allowed. NBC News has learned it was significantly limited in scope. The Washington Post also reports tonight that the agent's work was curtailed, adding, quote, "The White House and the FBI have treated each other warily throughout the process," people familiar with the matter said. Both sides were mindful that their written communications might one day be subject to subpoena, particularly if Democrats take control of the House of Representatives in next month's midterm elections. President Trump has insisted publicly he was not curtailing the FBI probe, but privately, the White House restricted the FBI from delving deeply into Kavanaugh's youthful drinking and exploring whether he had lied to Congress about his alcohol use. Sources indicate the FBI has spoken to at least 6 people, including Mark Judge, Brett Kavanaugh's friend, who Dr. Ford identified as being in the room when she was allegedly sexually assaulted, Leland Kaiser, Patrick Smith, who Ford also said were at the house that night, Deborah Ramirez, who alleged in The New Yorker that Kavanaugh exposed himself to her at a party at Yale, something he also denies, and 2 of Kavanaugh's high school classmates and friends, Tim Gaudette and Chris Garrett. But sources also tell NBC News more than 40 people with potential information about these allegations against Kavanaugh have not been contacted by the FBI. Nor has the Bureau interviewed Judge Kavanaugh or Dr. Ford themselves. On Monday, the president indicated he was open to FBI interviews with his nominee and all of the accusers.
Should Brett Kavanaugh be interviewed by the FBI?
I think so. I think it's fine if they do.
Should the FBI interview all 3 of Brett Kavanaugh's accusers?
It wouldn't bother me at all.
Also today, the White House has been forced to confront the bipartisan backlash over the president's remarks at that rally last night about Dr. Ford's accusation.
How many years ago was it? I don't know. Upstairs, downstairs, where was it? I don't know. But I had 1 beer. That's the only thing I remember.
Ford did testify the year was 1982, that she was 15 years of age and the attack was upstairs. Today, this was the defense strategy from the White House.
The president was stating the facts. Certainly, the testimony by Dr. Ford was compelling, but you can't make this decision based on emotion. It has to be based on fact. Every single bit of evidence and facts that we've seen in this moment have supported Judge Kavanaugh's case.
Let's bring in our leadoff panel on a consequential Wednesday night. Elisabeth Bumiller is back with us, Washington bureau chief for the New York Times. Frank Figliuzzi, former FBI assistant director for counterintelligence. Ashley Parker, Pulitzer Prize-winning White House reporter for the Washington Post, and Eugene Robinson, Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist for the Washington Post. We're so very thankful to have you all to start off our broadcast tonight. Good evening to you all and welcome. Elisabeth, I'd like to begin with you. Your newspaper has teams at work on both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue, the Capitol and the White House. The majority leader comes to the floor tonight and says, we're going full steam ahead, we're going to vote on that thing. Is that, do you think, does your reporting bear out because of any new sense of confidence he has? Can his whip count have possibly changed without anyone having read this FBI investigation?
I think he's fairly confident, but the main thing you need to know about Senator McConnell is that he is plowing ahead. He wants this very badly. This is everything to him. This is his legacy. You mentioned earlier about President Trump's remarks being not helpful. That's certainly the case. But for Senator McConnell, this is everything. Getting a conservative majority on the Supreme Court for the next generation, never mind the midterms. That's a 2-year event. This is everything, and they are somewhat confident that they have the votes. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done. He called for the vote, the procedural vote, the cloture vote, leading to the final vote this weekend, without even seeing the FBI report. But they feel fairly confident about the 3 waivers: Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, and Senator Flake. Also, Senator Heitkamp and Senator Manchin, they think, might also vote in favor among the Democrats.
Frank Figliuzzi, I've been trying to get you on this broadcast for a couple of nights. I have a couple of questions for you. Number one, about the process. This investigation, I suppose, should have been unrestricted. It should have been transparent. It should have been thorough. It is your position that this was held back from the get-go, and here we are reporting tonight 40 people's stories who have come forward will go unrecorded and unreported because this thing is done and dusted and already has arrived at the Senate tonight.
Yeah, I think the FBI could do amazing things in 1 week, Brian, but they simply weren't permitted to do those amazing things. And the fact that Dr. Ford herself has not even been interviewed is just a basic failure of, it's classic how to do an investigation the wrong way. So the American public needs to understand that the rules need to change regarding the relationship, the client relationship between the FBI and the White House when it comes to presidential appointments. That process needs to be looked at, but that's down the road. What we're faced with right now is something less than a full investigation, an investigation dictated by politicians and handcuffs placed on the FBI.
You and I both know, and I hope our viewers know, you don't speak for the FBI, but you can speak about the organization. You and I both also know that if Director Wray had come forward, perhaps even gone public, held a press event, and said, I consider this free rein, we would have had a much wider, much deeper investigation, will we not?
Well, I don't know if we would have had an FBI director anymore at that point. I think this is a real tough dilemma for the director of the FBI because there is existing protocol that needs to be followed, and we don't know. And it would be dangerous for us to speak about what communications went between the FBI, DOJ, and the White House. Someday, as has been said before, all of this could be discoverable via subpoena, via Freedom of Information Act request, or even congressional hearings as to what really transpired and whether requests were made for additional investigation and turned down or not. And all of the field office communications saying to headquarters, we've got people calling in, walking in, do we still have to turn them away? Answer, yes. All of that's potentially discoverable. We need to hear what happened. I
got one more for you before Ashley and Eugene accuse me of showing favoritism to the Times. I hold in my hand an FBI 302. This happens to be the 302 that's been released following Hillary Clinton's 2016 interview. The senators are going to view 302 forms tomorrow. There's no conclusion. There's no summary page. But, Frank, in your best non-FBI English for our viewers, explain what a 302 is.
Sure. It's, the government's famous for having numbers on everything. So the 302 just is the number of documents, federal document number 302. And there's no magic or mystery to it. It really is a recitation of what the interview subject has told you. It always starts with the usual preamble. On Wednesday, October 3rd, Brian Williams was interviewed by Special Agent Frank Figliuzzi. Mr. Williams was advised of the nature and purpose of the interview, and he agreed to voluntarily provide the following information. At that point, it might say that Mr. Williams requested confidentiality. And in that case, the name would be redacted from people it's being presented to, and then recites what was said, but it's not a verbatim description. Sometimes when you're in a sensitive interview, you're seeking a confession, it doesn't help to have a notepad out or you're clicking on your laptop in front of the subject, but rather you've got to have eye contact and report. So you get very good as an FBI agent of leaving the room and immediately documenting what was said and remembering. And if you're putting quotes in from the subject, you need to put those in quotes. What's not in there, Brian, is conclusions and opinions of the agent. That would be a separate section, and only in the event that the subject is clearly indicating deception. The subject sweated profusely during the interview. The subject looked down and closed his eyes for the entire interview. That would be put in a separate section away from the 302.
As I recall hearing, a former FBI director followed that very same protocol after dinner with the president. Frank, thank you for that. Ashley, I'm going to play you something from Senator Ben Sasse on the Senate floor tonight. We'll talk about it on the other side.
We all know that the president cannot lead us through this time. We know that he's dispositionally unable to restrain his impulse to divide us. His mockery of Dr. Ford last night in Mississippi was wrong, but it doesn't really surprise anyone. It's who he is.
So, Ashley, what is that? Is that kind of, forgive the phrase, Senator, having it both ways, a senator who's going to end up as a yes, who wants broadcasts like ours to do what we just did and air that soundbite with the whiff of criticizing the president?
I was struck by those comments, too, especially because that sounds like a senator who is going to vote no, but he's not even one of the ones of those sort of 3 to 5 we hear about in that mix. What Senator Sasse is saying, for instance, is he's saying publicly something you frequently hear privately from members of Congress in both parties. But if you just want to focus in on the real 3 Republicans right now, everyone is paying attention to, what's so striking again about all of this is they all came out, Senator Collins, Senator Murkowski, Senator Flake, and condemned what the president did when he mocked Dr. Ford in Mississippi the other night. That said, Senator Flake said quite overtly that it wasn't going to affect how he voted on Judge Kavanaugh. Some of the other senators were a little more circumspect, but there is this interesting thing where, much like some of the president's own voters and supporters, they don't like the language, they don't like the tone, but they ultimately, more often than not, end up supporting him.
Eugene, I want to show you some video and have you react to it. Last night, of course, we poured over the words of the president at the rally in Mississippi. Tonight, it's DJ TJ, Donnie Jr. at a cruise event, who gives us our soundbite.
Now, I know that in this week in particular, you're not allowed to have a beer if you are a conservative. Now, if you're a liberal, you can do cocaine and you can be the president, but that's okay. It's okay. We'll hold ourselves to a higher standard.
Eugene, you comment for a living. Go ahead.
Well, you know, he's becoming much more visible and frequent spokesman for the administration. And maybe they like that. I don't think that's going to work out very well for them in the long run, because
he has said he may face great legal peril.
Yeah, exactly. And he doesn't have his father's charisma or swagger or any of that. But, you know, let him go ahead and say what he wants to say. Look, this is... it sounds like they're going to push this through. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. And Mitch McConnell could be bluffing. He could be putting pressure on the waivers by saying we're going to vote on Friday and we're going to push ahead. But he usually doesn't bluff. He usually has the votes. He counts very well, and he thinks they're going to vote with him in the final analysis. We should not be surprised that the investigation is not a real investigation, because it never was going to be. I mean, it was constrained to 1 week from the beginning. No matter what you find, just 1 week, and then there was a negotiation of, do you do a transparently inadequate investigation, or do you cover your flank a bit to make it look more like a real investigation? They decided to go with plan A.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.